Juneteenth, like there's a deeply emotional moment for slave people, because for decades, for centuries, like enslaved people been prayed for, hoped for, like we fought for in the form of slavery and the rebellions, running away, like bought their freedom when we could. Let's see. And if you believe slave narratives and you listen to spirituals and you know about the era of slavery and you know about like enslaved people, like they long for freedom. So even today, as I wear this this Juneteenth, so long, man, so many people like hope for it and never thought that day would come.
Also promised to give me $40 a month in fed. Well, lots of the boys say they ain't want it. They rather go free, you know.
Like just being able to go and wherever they wanted and just wonder about, like for enslaved people, it was
well, Matt Porter was the one that along with Miss Porter, one of our white folks in Navy. He come along, we all sitting on the fence, and a colored soldier come along and asked her did she want to go with him. And she said yes, she mounted one of them horses. She went on with them. I never did see her and hear tell of her no more.
Expression of the freedom, you know. So if you do your research, you do your history on things in this world that really mean something, Juneteenth was one of those days, one of those moments. But when I think about Juneteenth, I think about it in the context of like Emancipation Day's celebration day that began January 1, like 1863. It took on a whole new meaning of what slavery is formally about, you know, after 1865. You could have like African American veterans that fought in the Civil War, like be prominent in these celebrations, you know, dressed in like their military guards and speeches from like slave people, the most black politicians, singers of hymns, Negro hymns, spirituals, like registering to vote, you know, like enslaved people, like they celebrated in public, like their newfound freedom, you know, and it wasn't like an act of resistance back then. So, because you got to remember, like slavery came to an end after 4 years of bloody Civil War. You know, still the bloodiest conflict in American history. Like many people in the South and in the nation, like that didn't want to see slavery, you know, abolished. And they fought to the nail to a block like the 13th Amendment. And if you don't know what the 13th Amendment is, make sure you look into it. Like the abolition of slavery created a huge humanitarian crisis in the South, like from Florida, Georgia, you know, Mississippi. So suddenly like 4 million people didn't have the means to take care of themselves. So the military was like necessary.
I remember, and the Yankees stopped here, and the Yankees stopped back on the corner of the square, and they prosecuting people, you know. We go to the ground field, and they take them, hang them over the slum. That's the punishment they got. Next time you see, they come off 4 troop Yankees, all riding horses, big guns hanging on. I said, Mama, where are they going? They're all going home now.
It was necessary to help the people get the food and the shelter and the health that they needed to survive. Like they're also to protect, you know, they were there to protect free people from violence, you know, from like confederates that still haven't given up the fight. Like when the last federal troop lead us out, it was a signal to Southerners like that the federal government wasn't gonna put its might, you know, into ensuring the civil rights of black people, you know. You have 20 or 30 years later, black people still being lynched in public, you know, and there isn't a federal anti-lynching law, you know, protect them. In most communities in America, there's history of most, you know, lynching and violence, but most American humans like have commemorated that and marked that. Like every decade since the end of slavery, black people have been more educated, have accrued more wealth, more status in American society. So every decade since 1865. But there's been one constant, and that one constant is the presence of random racism and violence. Sometimes speaking on things like this brings a tear to my eye of how change needs to be made in this world. Not just America. But what I see in George Floyd's murder is a white police officer attempting to dominate and to subduing a black man that wasn't resistant, who couldn't resist. Even though slavery came to an end in 1865, the desire to master and dominate black bodies didn't, you know. And I've never dealt with that. We've never dealt with that. These are the shock realities that are highlighted, you know, during Juneteenth. Like if black people's lives could be expunged through racist violence and no one is held accountable, like how free are we? Are we free?